decades, Donald Trump has cultivated a mythos around his persona narrative of invincibility, dominance, and untouchable authority. From his business ventures to his rise in politics, he has presented himself as a man who bends the rules to his will, who thrives above scrutiny, and who is impervious to consequence. That narrative has been reinforced by loyal advisors, media amplification, and a public fascination with perceived power. But the events of 2026, culminating in the confirmation of his arrest and the rejection
Yeah, that's
of
the
his immunity
name.
claims,
K
exposed the
York.
stark contrast between
Yep. Sascha Riley. That's the name I was talking about. K York. That's the name I was talking about earlier. The victim resurfaced. I hope this is the end for him. Snowflake. I hope so too. Yep. That's the name. I'm over here digging it up. And that's the
myth
guy.
and reality. The image of Trump as an untouchable figure was carefully constructed. Advisors played a central role, managing information flows, shielding him from legal scrutiny, and controlling messaging. Public perception was
They
cultivated
can't take
through
it down
media
fast. They trying to take it
staged
down.
events, and relentless branding.
Oh yeah, I
The
saw it.
aura of
I
invulnerability
googled his
became a
name.
political weapon, deterring dissent and creating an environment where loyalty to him was often mistaken for competence. Yet this carefully curated narrative has proven fragile. Courts, acting on evidence and principle, have stripped away the illusion, revealing the vulnerabilities that the myth was meant to conceal. The forced disclosure of documents, the confirmation of arrest, and the rejection of immunity claims
Yeah, he said there's
illustrate a
bodies.
fundamental truth. Power does not equal impunity. The presidency amplifies visibility, influence, and authority, but it does not erase personal accountability. Trump's myth relied on the perception that proximity to the presidency could shield one from consequence, that advisors could manipulate the system to create an untouchable bubble.
Look,
Reality, as the law now demonstrates,
look, look, Kay, I'm gonna show you something. Man, what is it gonna show? I don't know if y'all can see. Can y'all see that? If I set it there. Look at my search. Where is it at? You see the name? I searched it last night. I'm on it. I'm on it. Even if I don't say nothing, I'm on it.
is far less forgiving. The structures of justice remain capable of enforcing accountability, even at the highest levels of power. This moment also highlights the role of public perception in sustaining myth. For years, many were willing to conflate charisma and spectacle with competence, mistaking theatrical confidence for substantive achievement. Advisors, media allies, and political supporters contributed to this construction, amplifying narratives that obscured fact with performance. The legal developments of 2026 now puncture that illusion, showing that performance cannot replace principle and image cannot replace integrity.
Yep, he named, yeah, hold on before I
Of
go, because I
his
said
legal
I was going to
exposure is
go over
stark.
there.
His claims of immunity, attempts to delay proceedings, and reliance on loyalist buffers all reflect a calculated effort to maintain a myth of untouchability. The law, however, does not bend to narrative. It enforces compliance, demands evidence, and upholds principle. In doing so, it reveals the fragility of the power Trump has projected for decades. Advisors who once seemed untouchable are now subject to public scrutiny and legal accountability. The aura of invulnerability, carefully cultivated, has been punctured. Ultimately, this moment teaches a lesson that extends beyond a single presidency. Myth may capture attention, influence perception, and temporarily shield behavior from scrutiny. Reality, however, is relentless. Authority may magnify visibility, but it cannot magnify immunity. Leadership is not measured by image, spectacle, or the manipulation of perception. It is measured by adherence to law, principle, and responsibility. The events of 2026 serve as a cautionary tale. Mythology cannot replace accountability, and the truth will eventually assert itself, no matter the power or status of the individual. In the end, the contrast between
Who
Trump's
got us?
myth and the unfolding reality is instructive. It is a reminder
Oh, they
that
say he
governance
stink.
depends not on
Absolutely.
perception, but on principle, not on branding, but on integrity, not on
Okay,
spectacle,
K York,
but on
you can,
responsibility.
cause listen, you're doing too much.
The
Chill.
confirmation of his
I'm
arrest
on
and
it.
the
I told you
rejection
I'm
of
on it.
immunity
I
claims
showed you
strip
that.
away the artifice of invincibility
Okay.
and reveal a simple truth. Power is
Yeah,
not
hit
paying
the like button.
attention,
Support the
and leadership.
platform. Now you they on you now. Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get ready to go. I'm heading on 3 hours. I gotta get some work done. Hold on.
If Lindsey Graham and Clarence Thomas participated, and it's sort of a question of did they participate? Were they blackmailed because they were there, attended the parties, but they didn't participate? Can you tell me much more about Clarence Thomas and Lindsey Graham?
I know the least about him. The only reason that I can remember him is because he was a black man. And I'm sorry, but that club is pretty much just white folks. So having a black person there was very unusual. So he stood out. But the only thing that I can really say is that I remembered him being there, and then I remember what a big deal it was in our household when he got confirmed onto the Supreme Court.
And I think that's the case with a lot of the Republicans you mentioned. Like you said, Clarence Thomas and Lindsey Graham were at these parties. You can't remember if Lindsey Graham and Clarence Thomas participated. And it's sort of a question of did they participate? Were they blackmailed because they were there, attended the parties, but they didn't participate? Can you tell me much more about Clarence Thomas and Lindsey Graham?
I know the least about him. The only reason that I can remember him is because he was a black man.
Specs said, here we go.
I'm sorry, but that club is pretty much just white folks. So having a black person there was very unusual. So he stood out. But the only thing that I can really say is that I remembered him being there, and then I remember what a big deal it was in our household when he got confirmed onto the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Because my dad was excited about that because of how high up he was. Now, I can't swear. I may have been assaulted by Clarence Thomas, but I cannot swear to that.
Oh, wow.
If he did assault me, then it was not to the level of something that scared me to the point where I needed to remember it, if that's a good way to put that, which Trump rose to that, and Andy Biggs rose to that, and Jim Jordan rose to that because he was dangerous to me because I could keep most people away from me.
She tried to warn us.
But, he was a good wrestler, so, he scared me in that sense that this is a person that I can't, that I can't keep away from me with my fists. Lindsey Graham, I am fairly sure he has assaulted me, but I just can't put my hand on a Bible and swear to that.
Yeah.
I know that he was there. I can remember it. He just like Jim Jordan, he has very distinct mannerisms, and his voice is a little unusual as well. So I could remember his voice. I could remember.
That's why he was on that plane.
Obviously, how he looks. So I can put him there, but I just can't. I can't say he did this or he did that exactly. I just can't.
Okay. So
I wish that I could provide more information on that because I think some things went on, but that's just not enough for me to point a finger and make an accusation. But he was there. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, that's enough, and I know that, and I think that's the case with a lot of the Republicans you mentioned. Like you said, Clarence Thomas and Lindsey Graham were at these parties. You can't remember if
Yes.
Lindsey Graham and Clarence Thomas participated, and it's sort of a question of did they participate? Were they blackmailed because they were there, attended the parties, but they didn't participate? Can you tell me much more about Clarence Thomas? And I think that's the case with a
Oh,
lot of the
wow.
Republicans you mentioned.
I accidentally hit it.
They-
Yeah. Dang
You
it.
said Clarence Thomas and Lindsey Graham were at these parties. You can't remember if
Yes.
Lindsey Graham and Clarence Thomas participated. And it's sort of a question of did they participate? Were they blackmailed because they were there, attended the parties, but they didn't participate? Can you tell me much more about Clarence Thomas and Lindsey Graham?
I know the least about him. The only reason that I can remember him is because he was a black man. And I'm sorry, but that club is pretty much just white folks. So having a black person there was very
And
unusual.
you should
So
be
he stood
up
out. But the
in
only thing that I
space.
can really say is that I
Yeah, I don't
remember
know
him
what you're talking
being
about.
there, and then I remember what a big deal it was in our household when he got confirmed onto the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Because my dad was excited about that because of how high up he was. Now, I can't swear. I may have been assaulted by Clarence Thomas, but I cannot swear to that.
Yeah.
If he did assault me, then it was not to the level of something that scared me to the point where I needed to remember it, if that's a good way to put that, which Trump rose to that, and Andy Biggs rose to that, and Jim Jordan rose to that because he was dangerous to me because I could keep most people away from me with my fists, but, you know, he was a good wrestler, so, you know, he scared me in that sense that this is a person that I can't, you know, that I can't keep away from me with my fists. Lindsey Graham, I am fairly sure he has assaulted me, but I just can't put my hand on a Bible and swear to that.
Yeah.
You know, I know that he was there. I can remember it. He just like Jim Jordan, he has very distinct mannerisms, and his voice is a little unusual as well. So I could remember his voice, I could remember his mannerisms, and then obviously how he
Specs,
looks.
he was talking without saying anything.
So
Well, I removed him
there,
without saying
but
anything.
I can't say he did this or he did that exactly. I just can't.
Okay. So.
I wish that I could provide more information.
Okay,
on
so
that,
y'all, do we want to listen to this later on tonight? Or what? Because there's a few of them. This man was assaulted. How? He telling you, Marshmallow? You listening with your good ear?
They were filming us. It was me and a girl that I knew that I had been trafficked with in other venues. And while we were filming, they came in and shot her in the head.
Oh, Lord.
Killed her, obviously.
Oh, Lord.
So that would be...
Was that the runaway?
That was another girl that I can't even remember her name.
He said it was bodies.
The runaway was tortured to death in a duplex in Enterprise, Alabama. My parents did that, and that wasn't on film, not her being tortured, but that was that black girl that I'm telling you about that later on Michael Bayless had talked to me about.
Oh, my
But they went and got
God.
her because they were afraid that this was after the investigation in Tennessee, and they were afraid that they would go down for child pornography. So they were wanting to kill her, and then they were wanting to get rid of me.
Unalive.
Accident,
Allegedly.
they couldn't because they had already tried to kill me several times.
Oh, wow.
Incident in Texas involving a Chevy van. There was another instance in Texas where my dad threw me into the middle of a pool and said sink or swim, and somebody saw it and called the sheriff, so there was a police report on that. And then there was a third instance in Texas where my dad threw me down a flight of stairs, and that one fractured my skull. Now, there may have been other things that happened as well, but I remember those three were enough that they generated an investigation. there were enough things that happened in Texas that my dad moved from Texas to Tennessee, and then got in trouble in Tennessee, and then got in trouble in Tennessee, and then moved to Alabama, got in trouble in Alabama, and then we just moved one more time.
And you're talking about
Alabama.
your adoptive dad, William Kyle Riley, correct?
Yes, I can give you one instance where they were filming us. It was me and a girl that I knew that I had been trafficked with in other venues. And while we were filming, they came in and shot her in the head. So killed her, obviously.
Oh,
so that would be...
Was that the runaway?
That was another girl, and I can't even remember her name. Yeah. The runaway was tortured to death in a duplex in Enterprise, Alabama. My parents did that, and that wasn't on film. Not her being tortured, but that was that black girl that I'm telling you about that later on Michael Bayless had talked to me about. But they went and got her.
Who is Michael
Bayless? They were afraid that this was after the investigation in Tennessee, and they were afraid that they would go down for child pornography. So they were wanting to kill her, and then they were wanting to get rid of me via an accident, but they couldn't because they had already tried to kill me several times. They had the incident in Texas involving the Chevy van. There was another instance.
Hold on, I'm trying to